you're not doing well, that's okay too. Just know that it's temporary. So today I'm with someone very exciting. It's someone who I just met, but I love her already. Her name is Jenna Switzer, and she's a holistic sex coach. So hi, Jenna.
Hello.
Oh, so nice to meet you. You know, I'm really jealous from where you are right now. You're in Bali. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Thank you. It is a really, truly magical place. And I genuinely think that everyone should at least once in their life come here. There's something, especially if you're
Mm.
interested in the spirituality and the more subtle energies in life. Bali is renowned for its like complex spiritual life here. So it's really easy to tap into those more, more subtle energies here than I think anywhere else in the world. It's really cool.
I believe it and sold. I'm coming. Easy peasy. Yeah, I'll coming. Easy weasy. Um, okay, so I'm really excited to talk about today's subjects. So I wanted to ask you, what is it that you do? What is a holistic sex coach?
So I firmly believe this saying, I say firmly believe, I don't really hold to anything 100%, but generally speaking, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right?
Mm,
So if
mm,
you think about, yoga is a good one. If you're a type A personality, you like to get things done, then probably when you go to yoga, you like a power yoga class, or you like a hot core, or, because you just tend to be the way you are in all aspects of your life.
mhm.
So when it comes to sex, oftentimes we struggle with what we consider to be a sex problem when in reality, it's a life issue. And
Oh,
what happens in the bedroom is happening outside of your life all the time. So when I think about approaching a problem in the bedroom, it's a lot harder to address a sex issue in the heat of the moment. It's a lot easier to look at your day-to-day life, take a holistic perspective of like, what ways are you rushing through things? What ways are you not being present in your day-to-day life? What ways are you not allowing yourself to receive pleasure? Like when you're at work, when you're with your kids, when you're walking your dog, all of those
mm,
things. And then it's easier to work on those. And then when you're in a more vulnerable experience, like in the bedroom with a new partner or with a longtime partner that you're feeling disconnected from, if you've been practicing in other places, it makes it a lot easier to do that when you're feeling vulnerable or nervous or that kind of thing. So the holistic sex coach is the idea that we're going to address what you're struggling with in the bedroom. More often than not, that struggle starts outside. So it's a more holistic, all-encompassing approach.
I absolutely adore that. Yes. Wow. It's kind of made me think of like in yoga, because I love yoga too. I teach yoga right now, but like what you practice on the mat is a reflection off the mat. So if you practice patience on the mat, it's a reflective off the mat. And almost like, let's say in sex, someone feels like, I'll just say this broadly, but like insecure. It's not maybe just sexually, but also insecure outside the bedroom too. So that's what you mean by holistic. So it's like more
Yeah.
than just, oh my God, I love that. So cool. So I wanted to ask you what brought you towards this modality? That's what you call it. What brought you towards holistic sex? Or even going back to like younger you and like your history, different jobs, like what brought you to being Jenna Switzer, holistic sex coach in Bali?
There's kind of two versions to the story, right? So we'll say like professional. I started yoga when I was 18. I got the Yoga for Dummies video
Hmm.
and I did it and I felt amazing doing it. And then I was really nervous because at the time I was quite a conservative Christian and I was worried that I was doing some sort of like satanic ritual that unaware. I don't know what I do know what I was scared of, but man, is it ever cute now to look back and be like, wow, that salutation was going to summon Satan. That's impressive. Anyway,
Fascinating.
so I kind of let it go for a while. And then later I was married in my early 20s and we
Hmm.
lived in kind of a remote place. And so I started doing yoga again and I really, really loved it. But it wasn't until we got divorced that I was like really lost in my life. I had no idea what I wanted or what direction to go. And so I signed up for a yoga teacher training, just thinking like, well, it's not going to hurt anything, and I like
Hmm.
yoga, I may as well. But I never in a million years thought I would teach it. And then I ended up, just one thing led to another. I became completely fascinated with the sensation of getting into your body, because I was never athletic as a child. So I never had the opportunity that I think a lot of people have to get to know their body early and understand how it works and utilize its strengths. So I was in my 20s, like learning how to contract my bicep or learning how to activate my abs. And it was so exciting and cool. And I've always been a very sexual person. So it quickly translated to me. I was like, wow, the more I do with my body, the more like the better sex I have. And so then studying yoga, like obviously I was very, very interested in like tantra is kind of the lineage that hatha comes from. So understanding tantra as more than just the white tantra sexual experience. And that's like back to this holistic perspective. Tantra comes from like a lifestyle practice, right? It's not just, 16 positions to try in the bedroom to blow his mind, like it's a really beautiful, beautiful practice. So Tantra studied quite a bit, and then Taoism, the Taoist perspective on sex is really quite beautiful as well. And so then I just kind of worked a lot with anatomy. Anyone who has spent a lot of time studying anatomy or biomechanics understands that your body's like its own universe. And so trying to study the whole universe is really difficult. You have to narrow it down, which is why you often get yoga teachers who over time refine and refine and refine, and they have one thing that they're really specialized in. They can teach probably most of the things, but that one thing. So I started specializing in the pelvic floor because I was really interested in how it worked, its impact energetically. Fast forward to the pandemic, I had this moment where I was like, okay, if there was ever a time to switch from full-time yoga into something more focused on sexual awareness, like now's the time, right? So that's the professional. But what I think really is true about anyone who finds their dharma or the thing that they're really like called in their soul to do is that more often than not, it comes through an experience that can be traumatic. So I had sexual trauma in my past, 3 like kind of major events that happened. And after the third, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was like, I cannot keep existing like this. I can't keep having sex and intimacy in the way I have been having, because, these things keep happening to me. Like, why do they keep happening to me? And so it was this amazing moment of everything about intimacy being destroyed and having to rebuild. And I think that a lot of us start to build our ideas around intimacy young without actual direction. So, through porn, through our friends, through websites, through Cosmo, whatever. And we're just piecemealing things together, hoping we get it right, And so as terrible as the experience was, it gave me the opportunity to rebuild. So all of this burns to ashes. What's going to come out of that? What is the growth? And being very intentional about what I planted. And one of the things that I've realized is that since that third trauma, I have never had another sexual trauma. And I know that sounds like, well, good, but also like shouldn't be happening all the time, but it was happening pretty consistently to me when I was younger. So I realized like how powerful that was. And then once you realize and you have such a huge life-changing experience, you want other people to have that. So those are kind of the 2 sides, long-winded story. That's why I'm here today.
I love it. It seems you're so much in your purpose and definitely spreading your light. It seems like you're definitely in your niche and what you're meant to do. So I love that. I wanted to ask if it feels innate, where like that sense of like, do you think you were born with, like you said, you were like highly sexual or perhaps more sexual than the average person? Like, how much do you think it's like you were born with this sort of like sex goddess energy, or was it learned behavior? Like, do you know what I mean? Do you understand the question a bit?
Oh, I think that, I spent what felt like forever. I just want to speak to anyone who's like, must be nice to have a dharma, I remember working jobs and just being like, I worked at this dance school and every day I watch people who were so passionate about dance. Like it lit them up from the inside. And all I wanted was something that lit me up from the inside. And in a lot of ways, yoga did that for me. Teaching yoga was a really beautiful experience, but I really struggled to find exactly what part was going to light me up. You know, like I was very like kind of, I'll say alternative. Like I was really focused on mobility, joint health, long-term longevity of your practice. And I always felt like it was kind of a bit not quite what I wanted. And so when I started focusing on the pelvic floor, I was like, oh man, no, this is really, really interesting to me. And then when I hit the switch over, it was like a bunch of the things that I have been doing my whole life were getting me ready to do this thing, but it wasn't intentional. You know, like I didn't start off my life being like, oh, you know, I notice I'm more sensually motivated than most people. Like I, you know, like as a child and then, you know, as a adolescent, you know, exploring intimacy. And then, you know, in my 20s, like I never thought to myself like, oh, someday I'm going to use all of this to be a sex coach. You know? I think that that's the way Dharma works, is that you're following what you're passionate and what you love, you will inevitably become the best version of what you're meant to be, right?
Right. So beautiful. It's interesting. When I'm looking at you speaking, I know maybe it's a bit obvious, but like I keep seeing like the sacral chakra, I keep seeing orange, which I feel like makes sense. It's very sensual, sexual, but that's all I see from you is big sacral chakra. And I have a couple questions to ask you. Do you connect to any like archangels or ascended masters or any type of like spiritual assistance that works with you? I just feel like there is like masculine energy around you, but I don't know what this means. Do you know what this means?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
So I've actually one of my biggest teacher and mentors is a guy named Todd LeVictoire, who's also in Ottawa. And he had a huge impact on me as a yogi, as a person interested in movement, and then also on a more spiritual level. And I think, you know, stepping back, and especially kind of what I'm learning now, is that I learn quite easily from that more masculine place. And then my work is to create and find that balance in the feminine space, because I like, and I say masculine and feminine, like it's really the yin and the yang, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I have we'll say like a yang archetype that is like within myself that I find it really easy to communicate with. Like we're on the level, I get it, you know? And then my yin archetype, we're learning how to talk a little bit more smoothly, because that yin energy is the language of emotions, right?
Yes.
And so I'm really learning to experience more of that. It's much more intuitive for me to be like, these are the words, these are the things, let's do the things, you know?
Yeah, I felt exactly that from you. Okay, so I have a couple questions for you. So one thing that comes up with my clients too is that people think things are too late to heal, or that it's just who they are. They think like, you know, let's say I'm just shy, so I can't open up, or, you know, I've been, again, these are strong things, but I've been sexually abused and it's just the way it is. Like some people think it's too late. Purity is gone. There's like something that happens and it's gone forever. And it's not just having sex, but it could just be some type of sexual encounter that just takes away the purity, takes away the innocence, and then it's gone forever. And it's like unhealable. Do you have any thoughts about that, about people thinking that something is unhealable or along those lines?
Yeah. It definitely, like, you can feel it in your heart just thinking about those moments. And like, you can think about your own, all of us, like if you think about your own story and those moments, it's like, man, I just wish that hadn't have happened. Like if that thing hadn't have happened, you know? But one of the things that's really amazing, and I'm just going to take a second to get to the word here. It's like alchemizing, right?
Oh, yes.
completely taking something and transforming its properties, right, into something else that's beautiful. So I like my sexual trauma. It's tough because I can look at it from two perspectives. I can look at it and tell you it was awful. It was awful. And I can also tell you it's the best thing that ever happened to me. If that had not happened, if that awful thing had not happened, I would not be where I am, because it was only something so terrible that was going to make me redirect my life. Because all the other like little things that happened were not making a dent. You know, I wish I was an easier learner, you know, that like the universe could send a message to me one time and I'd be like, excellent, noted, you know, new direction. But I'm like, no, I barely even saw that one. Like, you know, like you ask the universe for a sign and it's like, oh, here's the sign. And you're like, what sign? I see nothing. You know?
Yeah.
So I will say that it is never too late. I was recently working with a client who she's in her 40s. She's in a long-term committed relationship and had a childhood sexual trauma that she had been trying to ignore for a long time and had just kind of accepted, like, it's just part of my past, you know, it is what it is. And one of my kind of qualifications is that if you do have a sexual trauma, that you've worked with a therapist, because there are just a lot of subtleties of especially childhood trauma that I'm just not equipped to know about. And I want people to have the best support. So I was able to connect her with someone who could support her. And honestly, in a 3-month period of time, her relationship, her experience of sex, her experience of intimacy completely transformed, right? And you're talking probably 30 plus years since that trauma had occurred. And like this woman walks with a lightness, you know, you can voice, you see it like comparing our first phone call to our last phone call, and you can see her face is just like radiant. And it's just that reminder that if you want to heal, you can. There is nothing that is too big. There is nothing that is too far gone. And it's hard. Like, I'm not telling you that you're just going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to heal it. It's not like that at all. It's nasty. Like it gets dirty. It gets ugly. It gets very, very unpleasant. And it is so worth it. It is so worth it.
Oh my God, that was so beautiful. That everything is just a big yes for me. What do you think has been the collective issue, or like what has come up often with your clients regarding holistic sex? Like if you could tell a message to the whole world and the whole world could hear it right now. Okay, that's a big question, but like what's the collective or issue or problem you often interact with when it comes to holistic sex in clients?
It's really one of the things that we desperately need is to slow down. You know, if I tell someone, you know, do 80 Kegel contractions a day, they're like, okay, I can schedule that in. Like I'll do 20 in the morning, 20 before, you know, they're like, yeah, okay. If I tell them that they need to spend 5 minutes a day relaxing their pelvic floor, they're like, yeah, it's a lot. You know, I don't know that I have time. Right.
Wow.
Because if it's an active thing and it's like, yes, we got to work harder. We're going to make it tighter. We're going to, then it feels like we step into it because it's part of this, you know, concept around capitalism and like doing more, being more, accomplishing more. Right. And we don't understand that, like, you know, as an entrepreneur, I'm there, you know, I love accomplishing. It is the best. And part of accomplishing is relaxing, you know, and part of that letting go and releasing is allowing you to step into more. So I think if I could, you know, send a message to someone who's listening to this and they're like, you've never met me, what advice would you give me that's going to make a big difference? And I would say, give yourself the space to relax and consciously relax, not relax watching Netflix, not relax, you know, scrolling on Instagram. I know that's tempting, but consciously relaxing, whether that's like a shavasana where you've lit candles all around you, whether that's allowing yourself to lay in bed and just feel your own heartbeat with your hands, whether that's, you know, a mindful walk that you take where you don't have your phone, you don't have music, you don't have a book. Like, because that's the thing is like, you know, if we're going to go for a walk, and I'm guilty of this, like hand up, definitely. It's like, oh, I'm going for a walk. Good, 45 minutes and I can read that book that I've been waiting to read. You know, I'm not present on the walk. I'm just using the walk to accomplish something else. So like
Right.
mindfully and intentionally relaxing and being present with yourself.
Right. So when you were speaking about that, I kept thinking about yin and yang and how often it's a man's world, but like yang yang energy, it's the daytime, it's the masculine, it's the sex, it's the assertiveness, and it takes over. And that's like the toxic trait is like taking over, and like the toxic yin is like kind of like being weakness. So that's why I feel like there's often more yang than yin, but I don't blame the yang because it's also the yin that chooses to be submissive in a way. So everything you're saying is kind of like finding balance between the two. So it's not just like go, go, go. It's finding that stillness, bringing up that like yin, which takes yang anyways. I definitely know what you're saying. And it seems holistic. Like the more you do that, it also can help heal like sexual things as well. It seems all connected. If I talk a bit about myself and sex, you know, one thing I grew up Catholic as well. And like, it's very difficult for me, you know. It's a man and a woman and they should get married and that's it, that's all. And for me, being very feminine and, you know, being sexually attracted to men, it was very difficult. Like gay sex is not taught in school, so I had to find what that is outside of school and like outside of people. So that was pornography and internet and all that stuff. And needless to say, I had to do a lot of sexual healing. In fact, you know, I used to think it was wrong and it was dirty and like Catholic brain, I'm going to go to hell, which I think is funny now. But I thought of all these really hard things and I didn't really heal it till I was around 22 and I'm 27 now. So that's kind of what I was saying earlier. For like those 22 years, I felt and thought a certain way. But then when I healed it, I felt like a completely different person. And one thing that I discovered through that process was really connecting to myself and like my soul and what feels right and what feels good, and not listening to other people of like what is right and what's wrong and what's good. I had to really, it's so spiritual and it's reflective and realizing what is holy and what's not within myself. So that's like my personal story, one of the stories. But you know, I'm sure there's a full color and range and orchestra of different stories. We're all different people. My question is like, it's similar to the last one, like all these different stories that people have. Do you feel like there's like always like one common answer or one common like medicine that could assist people? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, but I also don't think that the power to heal is hard to find, if that makes sense.
Cool.
So I think that that's really important because I'd love to be able to say like, yeah, you know, you can find that one thing. And once you find that one thing, you heal that one thing and you're done. Because like, if I use my story, right? So one of my recurring stories, you know, from a similar conservative background where the man is the head of the household, the woman is his helpmeet, you know, like it's her job to just support her husband.
Yeah.
You know, one of my things that I notice is that when I get into a relationship with a man, one of two things happened. Either I go seriously hardcore rebellion because I'm super angry and resentful from when I was younger and like having to do what the man told me to do all the time, or I go into complete subservient mode and no matter what he says, I won't argue with him. I won't. And it's a weird, like, why am I doing this? And I'm kind of over exaggerating the facts at this point in my life. But if I look through like my 20s and how I was in relationships, and every now and then, like it wasn't that long ago, I was seeing someone and that kind of experience where I like went into this like subservient role. And I was like, who the heck is this girl? Like, how are you not over this? We're way past this. We're way past this. So, you know, there's always like, one of the most annoying and most amazing things is that you're never going to run out of things to work on in yourself. And because how you do one thing is how you do everything, it's like how you do things outside of the bedroom is going to impact things how you do in the bedroom, right? So I'll say that for me. And then, you know, I obviously had, not obviously, I had insecurities around, you know, being good in the bedroom. Also there's something about like, I'm sorry, being a sex coach, like people think that you're some kind of like voodoo master queen. And then I get like super nervous because I'm like, I don't know. Am I supposed to know tricks that I don't know? Like, should I be doing something with my leg that I'm not doing? And like, so we all will find those little things that are like, but giving yourself those pauses, right? So going back to like what I said about relaxing, giving yourself that pause, that breath to be like, oh, okay, I'm feeling insecure right now. That's okay. It's okay that I feel insecure. What do I actually know about this? You know, I know that I really love intimacy. I know that I really enjoy the partner that I'm with. So what do I have to be insecure about? You know, like, and I can tell him or her or, you know, and just explain to them like, I'm insecure in this way. I'm not giving it to you. It's not their responsibility to make me feel better, but sometimes vocalizing it, and this might be a Gemini thing, sometimes vocalizing it takes away the power of it, right? It's no longer like this like black thing inside my head. I've gotten it out and now it kind of like dissipates into the air because I've let it outside of myself. So I want to say that I think that there's a lot of things that we work on and you just kind of address one at a time, you know?
Wow. It seems like it's a lot of awareness. So seeing the issue or seeing the thing, which is like step one, and then accepting it and having compassion for it to heal it and let it be. That seems what it is. You know, everyone wants to find it. Like everyone wants to find that connection, that love and whatever it is, like tantra, it. And like, I almost feel like we all, if I illustrate this, we all have like a mask of something or a wall preventing us to get to there, where some person it's insecurity and some person it's how they grew up. I'm not too sure. I'm sure you've seen lots of different walls. It seems like once we remove those walls, it's all the same. It's just love. It seems like it's all like the same energy. Anyways, that's just kind of the words I thought.
This is really interesting when it comes down to like heterosexual or non-monogamy or monogamy or
yes,
how
yes.
you approach relationships, because we often think like, oh, well, you know, I'm heterosexual and monogamous, or, oh, I'm non-monogamous, or so I'm different, or I'm different, or, and one of the things that I think is really important is what you just said. It's like, once you take away all these layers, like, and sometimes labels really help us understand ourselves, right? You know, you see a lot of adults now, especially with the ADD, the ADHD, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm okay. You know, it feels really good. And sometimes labels really constrain us, right?
Yes.
And we feel like we can't relate to somebody who's different.
Yes.
And so you just said it's so beautiful because it's like, you take away the layer of like, you know, on paper, I'm queer, right? I don't think about it often. I don't think about that label. I don't use that label, but that is what I am. But to me, that feels like it separates me from other people. So generally speaking, I just am the way I am. And I love who I love. And, you know, when you take away the wall of queerness or the wall of, you know, heteronormity or whatever, at the end, we crave love and intimacy. And one of the ways that we express intimacy, deep, deep intimacy, is through sex. It is not mandatory for intimacy, but it can be a way that we express it. And it's a really beautiful way. So remove wall, remove wall, remove wall. We are all the same. We are all loving and we are all craving that intimacy.
I love it. And I feel like that too, where I also identify, I'm also part of the queer community, but I'm like, I'm not gay, I'm not trans, I'm not this, I don't know, I'm just Tristen, like I'm just me, you know, I'm just a soul in a body. So I absolutely like that. So I want to play a game, I guess. I'm just gonna pull some cards and each card has a word. It's an astrology deck because I love astrology. And then I want us to see kind of like what spirit wants us to talk about and how it relates to holistic sex. Yay. Love it, love it, love it. As I pull a card, is there something you want to talk about? Some fun little topics, some fun little dilly? Anything kind of fun? Anything?
What's fun? I mean, orgasms are fun. I think that's the really fun part of what I do is like helping people discover the orgasms that they never knew they always wanted. Oh my gosh, I had this client, she was 62, and she sent me this message one time, and she was like, if I had known sex could be this good my whole life, it would have changed everything. And I'm like, I want to be you're having the best sex of my life, you know?
That's beautiful. That's so true. And that again, it's never too late to heal and never too late to do these things. And that's so true. Orgasm is a whole other topic, isn't it? Well, maybe this is what we're going to talk about because I pulled the card Jupiter, and Jupiter is the planet of abundance. It's the word. I don't know if you can see. Yes.
Yeah.
And I love it how it's very present for, anyways, I was shopping for pumpkins today and I was actually manifesting and meditating on abundance. That's what I was thinking on. I'm like, what do I want more? Abundance. And this is the word is abundance. So does anything come to you?
Right. Think about multi orgasms. Like,
okay. Yeah.
I think, we can talk about like an abundance of intimacy. We can talk about an abundance, like what kind of comes to your mind when you think about holistic sex in this?
Well, I was kind of seeing how being mindful of like holistic sex or seeing sex holistically brings abundance. Like you just feel like you're on top of the world, you know, you just feel like there's love all around. And it's just through this healing, you know, it doesn't mean you're having sex all the time and having all these orgasms. I don't think that that's what that means, you know. Okay, if someone is healed, let's say, or in their power when it comes to holistic sex, like they got it, they're in that moment, and maybe it comes in waves, maybe there's months or not, but like in those moments when you just feel so like holistically empowered sexually, it's kind of like you feel abundant. So it's not more sex, it's not more, you don't need it as much, it's not like a primitive drive, it's more so you just feel it within yourself, you just feel so abundant that you don't need it. Does that make sense? Do any of those words make sense? It was a bit all over the place, but that's what I got from abundance.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I think that very few people get the opportunity to experience that sensation of abundance when it comes to intimacy and love. And I think it's also a superpower to tap into when you do feel connected to that you're sharing that overflows into the energy that you bring into a room, you know?
Exactly that. Okay, so I pulled one more card for us today, and it's called Progressions. And the word here is journey.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm feeling like Spirit wants us to talk about journey and sex. You know, what comes to mind, which we've been talking about quite a lot specifically, I'm not sure if you can see, but there's like a clock of we're like sexual awakening, sexual healing. It's a journey in itself. It's not just there, you know, it's not just there. Like some people think like food is just there and sleep is just there. It's just things that exist. But whereas sex is not just like an activity, it's not just a thing, it's a journey, it's a portal, it's an awakening, it's like a full-on location. It's not really as much as an activity as much as it is like a state of consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's two things. One is, you know, your journey of sexual intimacy, and it is a very interesting road. Even if you married your high school sweetheart and you're listening this, you'll be like, yeah, no, it's been an interesting road for sure. So that journey that you have with experiencing the physical vulnerability, the emotional vulnerability of being with a partner. And I think there's also exactly what you're describing, the journey. I know this is terrible, but you know, what comes to mind is like Anchorman when they're on like the rainbow together.
Oh my gosh. I did not see this. I don't know what this is. Darn it.
Really cheesy, terrible. It's supposed to be like the sex scene, but it like turns into this cartoon and they're riding on unicorns and like sliding down a rainbow and like, and then in the end they kind of land and they come back to bed, you know, like, and they're both just like laying in bed. But it's the journey of the experience. So often we think that male ejaculation in hetero, or I'll say gay relationships, that is the end of sex, right? That's where we go. And when that's done, we're done. You know, maybe the girl gets something at the end if she didn't get off, but like generally speaking, that's the end.
Right.
I feel like that really just like limits the journey. You know, it's like you were saying earlier about like, you know, Iceland, I want to go to Iceland. It's like if you went to Newfoundland and you were like, okay, close enough. Like, what? Like, no, that's not Iceland. You know, like, it's, it might look the same. There might be a lot of rocks, but it's not Iceland. So why would you stop here? And so I think sometimes we look at orgasm and we're like, oh, I hit the peak. But my most tantric, like energetic experience, I don't even remember if either of us orgasmed in the I'll say
Mm.
in the traditional way. There was just this energy that was moving between us and this like light that I would experience, and then it would flow from me into him. And then it was like this crazy, but I don't think that either of us ever, like, he didn't ejaculate, and I don't think I ever hit it and came back down. I think it was just like this movement of energy. And it was
Mm.
such a beautiful journey of intimacy rather than, like going, done.
Right. So well said. You did it. You talked about journey in the perfect way. Yes, you did. Okay, my dear. So, knowing everything you do now, what advice would you give your younger self to help empower you with all this like sexual, energy? What would you tell your younger self?
So I think similar to you, there was a lot of guilt, and I think part of what makes guilt so powerful is we feel guilty about feeling guilty. Like it's like this
Mm,
vicious, and then it's like
yeah.
a black hole inside of us that we do
Oh,
things, feel guilty, but we try to ignore. And so I think that one of the things that's really important is when you get that feeling of guilt or shame, is not to turn away from it. And also, maybe this takes a friend, maybe this takes a journal, but like looking at it, why do I feel guilty right now? I just experienced an amazing, intimate, pleasurable experience. Why do I feel like this? And sit with that. Is it because of your own expectations? Is it parents? Is it siblings, friends? What you wish was true? Like really allow yourself to experience that. And then like know that your pleasure is one of the most powerful gifts that you can give to the world.
oh,
We are all lifted, that rising tide lifts all boats. You experiencing pleasure and intimacy vibrates that out and allows us all to like raise our consciousness. And I'm not saying like, every time you have sex, you're, making the world a better place. I mean, maybe you are.
maybe, yeah.
When you embrace that part of you that feels unloved, when you embrace that part of you that's craving these things, and you give it the space and you give it permission, it really changes things. And I
Mm,
also, I want to say again that don't be scared. Like if I could tell myself one thing, it would be don't be scared, because the amount of times I let people have access to me sexually because I was scared of rejection, I was scared of being made fun of, I was scared of an argument, I was scared of like all these things that I was just scared of. And not being scared has like opened the door. Like, have I had unpleasant conversations? 100%. Have
mm,
they felt way better than if I had have just been too scared to say anything? Yes.
mm, mhm.
I preserved my integrity and alignment. Yes. So for myself, I would say, don't be scared, and look at the things that you're nervous, or that you're look at those feelings that are feeling yucky to you, and really allow yourself to move through them and process them.
Wow. Amazing. You are amazing. Did you know that? Did you know that you're amazing? That was so well said.
But
Oh,
I also want to know yours. If you could tell yourself something when you were younger that would really impact you now, or that would have fast tracked you to places you feel you're a little more confident in now, what would you say?
I would say, that's cute. I would probably go to myself and say, screw everyone else and go have sex. Go have sex with all the men. Go explore. Go do it. You're young. Like this is the time to do it, Because that was I felt so I lost my virginity in my 20s. I was very old. I was so ashamed. And I felt so
Back this up. We got to back this up. I cannot allow you to say this. This lost my virginity is one of those social constructs. Virginity
Hmm.
doesn't exist, right? You had sex for the first time. Virginity is this thing that was made up by the church to like guilt and
Ah,
shame. So you didn't lose
you're right.
anything.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Oh my God, you just taught me something. I'm
I
definitely gonna
got you.
I'm gonna start saying it like that. Wow. So yeah, that's what I would tell myself is go have sex, go home with him, go kiss her, go. I was so shy. I'd be like, go and do it. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. It's kind of like, so it's like doing all that. Yeah. Okay. You should write a book. You should do a course. I am serious. You need to make a card deck. I don't know, but you definitely need to do something. I also am clairvoyant and I saw butterfly for you, which is my symbol of like, where the caterpillar, then the cocoon, and then the butterfly. Seems you're definitely in that shining, sharing, you're in that space right now. So anyways, I think you should definitely do great and beautiful things. So where can people find you? How can people book sessions with you? Instagram, website, all of that.
Yeah. So Instagram is Jenna_Switzer, and Switzer is spelled just like Switzerland minus the land. My website, jennaswitzer.com. Instagram, I'm pretty good about answering Instagram messages. Email Jenna Switzer if you're an email person. Some people actually, because of the nature of what I do, it can be intimidating for them to message me from their Instagram. I find that really interesting. I often get emails from people that I assume must find it through the website. And I think it's just that they need to remain anonymous until they feel strong enough to step into it. I also want to acknowledge that reaching out to me is one of the scariest things you're going to do, because talking to a complete stranger about sex and intimacy is really, really tough. And one of my superpowers is that I love to talk about it. And it definitely never feels as scary as you think it's going to feel. So yeah, that's kind of how you reach out to me. I'm working one-on-one with clients. I have that yoga teacher training coming up. Again, my friend Alicia Dirksen, you can look up our yoga teacher training in alignment, and we have a few spaces left. So I would love if there were a few people who are like, yes, I love holistic sex, I want to do your yoga teacher training. I would love to have that. And yeah, I think that's it.
So beautiful. Okay. Well, this is amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me. I think you definitely spread so much knowledge and I love it. Thank you for watching. I really hope you like this video. And if you want to go book a session with Jenna, totally do it. If you want to book a session with me, you totally can. I know our arms are so open. Thank you again, Jenna. I'm so excited to have met you. I'm super excited for more opportunities for us to chat. I feel like there's definitely more things for us in the future. Okay. So namaste. Love you. Bye.